Good morning. Welcome to our Bible study this morning. This morning we'll be starting a new series. It'll be a 4-part series entitled The New World Order. What I would like us to do is take our time over the next 4 lessons and study concerning the concept of the New World Order and what the Bible says about the New World Order. Here's what our series is going to look like. In today's lesson, we're going to be looking at what the New World Order is. What do we mean by the phrase, a New World Order? And also we'll be looking at, does the Bible ever teach that a New World Order will actually take place? That's what we'll be looking at this morning. In part number 2 of our series, we'll be looking at the past attempts by man to create a New World Order by force. There have been times in the past when man has tried to force nations into submission to one authority. We'll be looking at those times in history when we've tried to form a new world order by force, and we're going to see what the Bible teaches about those different times. In part number 3 of our series, we'll be looking at the different times man has attempted to form new world orders by consensus. In other words, there have been times in history when men have tried willingly, not by force, but willingly, the different nations have tried to get together to form a new world order. Again, we're going to see what the Bible says about those different times. And finally, in part number 4, we'll be looking at a new world order of the future. Will a new world order take place? And if it does, what does the Bible say will take place when that happens? So we'll be looking at those in our study. Again, please keep in mind we have a written copy of all these lessons on my blog. You can find that blog at settledinheaven.wordpress.com. And once again, as I always say, in that blog there's a lot more information that's in written form than what I can fit in this 15 minutes on YouTube. So if you'd like more information on all of these subjects, please go to my blog on WordPress and you'll be able to get more information about these. First, what I would like us to do is to define what we mean by a New World Order. Throughout this study, we're going to be using the phrase New World Order, so it's important we understand what we mean by that phrase. What's meant by a New World Order? Well, the best that I know to do this, the best way to do this, is by looking at different dictionary definitions of what a New World Order is. I've tried on purpose to stay away from religious websites, because there are at least times I know when writers with good intentions have a tendency to maybe paint a new world order in the worst possible light. And so I really wanted to try hard to be fair about the subject and to just look at what in general people believe about a new world order. So by doing that, I went to different dictionaries. Let me say one more thing. Also, I stayed away from conspiracy websites when I was studying different facts about the New World Order. Once again, let me say, on conspiracy websites especially, you can really get a biased view of the New World Order by reading conspiracy websites. And I'm not saying that all of them are totally wrong. I'm simply saying you have to be careful what you read when you look at conspiracy websites. People come up with some weird things that you just have to be careful about. So I tried to avoid those as well. So the websites that I used to come up with a definition for a new world order, for example, is dictionary.reference.com, wikipedia.org, allwords.com, and the Cambridge Dictionary. Okay, so I just want you to understand that these aren't biased definitions. This is what just in general mankind believes what a new world order is. Okay, listen to this. This is from the dictionary.reference.com. The New World Order is the post-Cold War organization of power in which nations tend to cooperate rather than foster conflict. From Wikipedia, any period of history evidencing a dramatic change in world political thought and the balance of power. From allwords.com. A vision of the world in which greater peace and stability is achieved through a new political order following the end of the Cold War. And finally, I'll give you the Cambridge Dictionary definition. Then we'll summarize all of these. This is from the Cambridge Dictionary. A political situation in which the countries of the world are no longer divided because of their support for either the United States or the Soviet Union, and instead work together to solve international problems. Now, believe me, folks, I realize you can't begin to memorize these. I'm sure as I read through them, I probably lost you halfway through. I know if I didn't have them in writing where I could read these over and over again, I wouldn't get the meaning of these definitions either. So what I tried to do is I tried to take those 4 definitions and basically pull out the parts that seemed to help explain what a New World Order was. Let me summarize for you those 4 definitions. Number 1, a New World Order is some type of political unity between the nations. That seemed to be consistent in every one of the definitions. It's some type of unity that takes place between nations. The second principle from these definitions. This unity is brought about by an exercise of authority. So it says the way that these nations end up unifying is by someone or someone's exercising authority. Whether it's each individual nation exercising their own sovereign authority, or whether it's one authority exercising their sovereignty over them, it has to do with an exercise of authority that results in unity. Thirdly, these are the desired results of this political unity between nations. Let me give you a list. This is what mankind is hoping to achieve when all the nations unify as they exercise their authority. Okay, here we go. Less conflicts. Dramatic changes in the way that politics is thought out. Dramatic changes in national power. Greater harmony and agreement between nations. Greater stability between nations. That's both military, economic, and social stability. And finally, the solving of all international problems. So when we look out at the world and when we hear people talking about a new world order, these are some of the things they hope is going to take place. You're going to have less conflict between the nations. You're going to have the way the politics of each nation is run. You're going to have a change in that. Maybe instead of each nation having a leader, you might have just one central leader. You might have just a board of leaders. But the whole political landscape of these nations is hopefully going to change. Not only that, you're going to have great changes in national power. You know, each nation has a certain amount of power in and of itself. Whether you're talking military power, economic power, whatever type of power you're talking about, each nation has their own degree of power. A one world order is hoping to change that. It's hoping to level the playing field where basically all nations have the same amount of power, whether you're talking military power, economic power, whatever. Okay, another change they're hoping for is greater harmony and agreement between the nations. Since everybody's going to be balanced out and everybody's going to be basically equal, they're hoping that in general the nations are going to get along better. You won't have one powerful nation trying to abuse one weak nation. You won't have one nation that has a real good economy taking advantage of nations who have very poor economies. You know, that type of thing. Once you level the playing field, they're hoping that all nations are going to get together better. There'll be more stability between the nations. Again, both military, economic, and social. All three of those areas, you're going to have more stability in each of the nations because they'll all be basically, again, on a level playing field. And finally, hopefully, you'll have all nations working together to solve the international problems that the world faces. Okay, folks, let me tell you something. At face value, you have to admit a new world order sounds really good. Again, I say at face value. If you just take what I talked about, the idea of unity between the nations and what the results might be, boy, sounds like a great idea. Let's everybody get together, love one another, have a big kumbaya moment, And that's going to do away with all the problems in the world, is basically the extreme view of what they're saying here. They're saying if things run really well, and if things go exactly according to plan, we can pretty much eliminate all the big problems simply by everybody becoming equal and all the nations unifying. Okay. During this series, we're going to be asking the question, will it actually take place? If all the nations unify, will the goals take place that man thinks will take place? Will there really become more stability if all the nations unify? Will there be less military conflicts if all the nations unify? You can go down through that list. We'll be looking at that in this series. But for this morning, I would like us to answer one more question. Now that we know what we mean by a new world order, let's answer one more question. Will a new world order ever take place? Now let me tell you, ever since the Tower of Babel, we'll talk about this more in part number 3. But ever since the Tower of Babel, you have never had a one world order in existence. Not since Babel. The question is, does the Bible ever say there will be a one world order in existence? Well, let me tell you, for those of you who are fans of a new world order, for those of you who would like to see the nations unify, I've got good news for you. According to the Bible, it's going to take place. Listen to Revelation 13, 7 through 10. Because in Revelation 13, 7 through 10, we have a prophecy about a future event that's going to take place. And clearly a part of that event is you're going to have national unity. You're going to have a one world order. Listen to what Revelation 13, 7 through 10 says. This is talking about a future event, and it's talking about a political leader. It was given unto him, this political leader, power was given unto him over all kindreds, tongues, and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. That's Revelation 13, 7 through 10. The one point I want us to see is this. Yes, someday a new world order is going to take place. The Bible is plain about it in Revelation 13. You're going to have a ruler with great authority stand up. It says here, power is going to be given unto him over all kindreds. That means all different families. All tongues. That means different languages. And all nations. That means the different political national entities. You're going to have one person stand up who's going to be given authority over all of those groups. That, folks, is a one world order. So to answer the question, will a one world order ever take place? Because we've never had it since the Tower of Babel, the answer is yes. Someday, the Bible makes it plain, there will be a one world order. Now again, in our following studies, we're going to be answering the question, is the Lord pleased with this? What's going to happen when that takes place? Those type of things we will be looking at in future lessons. But I just wanted us to understand in this lesson what we mean by a one world order, and then will it actually take place? Once again, very quickly, what do we mean in this series when we say one world order? It's a political unity that takes place between the nations. It's brought about by an exercise of authority. And some of the results mankind is hoping from the one world order is less conflicts, changes in the political atmosphere of the nations, changes in national power, greater harmony and agreement between the nations, greater stability between the nations, and the solving of international problems. Will this ever take place? At least the formation of a one world order? Will it ever take place? Yes, it will. Revelation 13, 7 through 10 is plain about it. There will someday be a one world order. Okay, as we then begin looking in part number 2, we're going to be looking at what does the Lord think of that one world order. Okay, thank you very much for being with us. May the Lord bless your study in His Word.